So the number one reason that people don't invest in real estate, at least in my 42 years of doing this, is that real estate is not liquid. And because of that, over the years of me being a sponsor, you would see situations where people needed liquidity. It could have been anywhere from just really difficult life circumstances, like somebody in the family got sick, insurance is not going to cover the hospital bills. That's most difficult, certainly as a sponsor. And it was just never built into any offering that I've ever seen or any other sponsors' offerings for liquidity for even that. The other thing that I would experience is, I invested to put my kid through college, give him a good education. That's why I did this. And, my kid got into an Ivy League school and tuition's $40,000 a quarter, and who knew, And that was our whole purpose for investing, but still no liquidity. Or I'd get guys to call up, which I could also identify with because I used to be a sports car fanatic. They'd say, hell, the new Ferrari's out, and I got to have the new Ferrari. A lot of people wouldn't be sympathetic with that, but I would put it right up there with my kid getting into Harvard, So I think the most important thing about that listing hub is that when we put together PREIshare, when consolidating all of our investor lists, one of the ways we determined that we could leverage that list is we could expose fractional ownerships that need liquidity from those individual investors. We could expose it to that list, giving those investors something they've never had before, and that is the liquidity to meet those life-changing events or advantage of opportunities as they come along. Maybe that was their original investment objectives or just gratification. So the listing hub would be the forum for that. It will be for accredited investors. When you list, we will expose it to our list of about 42,000 accredited investors now. So great chance that you're going to find a buyer for it, and you're going to get a discount not to what you paid for it, but what its current value is. So I think that's what I see to be so attractive about the listing hub. Plus the fact that you're going to get an offer, because PREIshare will give you an offer right up front. And if you reject it, you can certainly put your asset on the listing hub. When we conceived the financial models for PREIshare, one of the things that we looked at very, very closely is short-term investing. So traditionally, if you invest with a conventional syndicator, which I was for 42 years, your investment cycles ran usually about 5 to 7 years. And if you understand the concepts of time value of money over time, internal rate of return, the longer you hold the investment, the more it starts diminishing that internal rate of return because of the time value of money. As you discount those cash flows that are further and further out into the future, they start to lose their value. The beauty of the PREIshare fund is that by design, it takes that 5 to 7 years where you recapture your capital appreciation and shortens it to an average period of about 2.5 to 3 years. So that's how you get these extraordinary returns, because you're capturing the remainder of somebody else's investment and their appreciation, and you're recapturing that and shortening the cycle to get to that recapture period, either through a refinance or through a sale of the asset. That means that the whole portfolio is recapturing all of its investment and recapturing all of that appreciation every 2 to 3 years on average. So it gives you a tremendous financial advantage. And the other thing that I like about that from an investor standpoint, I'm going to be invested into this fund myself. The other thing I really like about that is that it allows me to start pulling back investment if I want to. I imagine it would, if you think that through in a matter of a few short years, in that same 5 to 7 years, you certainly could, depending on what's going on in the market, you could pull back all your original investment fairly early on and just leave all of the appreciated gain into the asset, into the pool, and allow that to continue to grow. Then you have zero risk of your initial capital, just dollars you haven't met yet. What's a term in Las Vegas? They call that playing on the house's money. So that's essentially what it moves you to in a fairly quick order. When you can recapture your investment quickly like that, it de-risks. As any investor will tell you, the most important thing is first the return of my investment, and then the second thing is a return on my investment. And so this gives you a chance to recapture that initial investment. If you take a look at the characteristics of the PREIshare fund, they're quite a bit different. It's real estate based, but it is the most diverse real estate fund I think you could find out there, because it's going to be diverse by geographical location, by asset type, and also by sponsors. We're functioning as a fund of fund, so it gives us the opportunity to choose the very best of the best, and we're looking at a large deal flow, which if you make real estate investments, sometimes qualified deal flow is a challenge. And this is designed, by its very nature to have a substantial amount of deal flow, but only taking fractional interest rather than taking a whole interest in any one deal. You're taking a fractional interest in a number of deals. And you can look at, what we offer the sponsors, and you can see how that money is going to be deployed in those. So I won't delve into that too much, but that aspect of it's fantastic. The other thing that I really like about it is that it gives you short cycle investment. What I mean by that is that the very design of how we're deploying capital doesn't mean that you hold any one asset or investment in any one asset for more than on average, I'd say about 2 to 3 years. And then you're recapturing previously gained appreciation plus the appreciation you've had during that 2 to 3 years. So the yield is a lot better just because you're condensing the cycle from initial investment to a capital event, which are either going to be a refinance or it's going to be a sale of that asset. And if you've invested in real estate, you understand that those are where the real gain is made. I mean, you'll get, by design, this is going to be about probably in today's market right now with debt financing at about 7 to 8%. The preferred return on this is estimated to be right around 14%, plus or minus, depending on the deal. Each deal is going to be different, but that would be preferred. So you'd be sandwiched in between debt would be paid first and then pref equities or our investment, and then the other investors be paid. That in and of itself, it's really great. But the fact that you're 2 to 3 years on average to a capital event where you recapture appreciation or your gains through a sale or the refinance, that boosts the yield up considerably. So if this seems like something that you would be interested in as an investor, I'm investing in it for those very reasons. I think you need to look at the prospectus and get a sense of how this fund is going to work and see if it makes sense for you. But it has all of the right elements that you invest in real estate for. The nice thing about it too is it provides its own internal liquidity. You can just dial up how much cash you want to pull back or leave it invested and just rely on the deal flow to continue to grow your original investment. When I retired as a sponsor, I realized there's some things that were really great about being a sponsor, and I was successful over the years, but there was a few things that I didn't really like about being a sponsor. One was 11th hour raise, maybe $500,000 or $1 million short on your raise, earnest money's gone hard, and you're closing next week. Yeah, that's where I lost my hair. That will drive you crazy till you get that. And one of the things that PREIshare wants to do is solve that problem by giving you top-off services. So you've got a forward commitment on that, gives you a surety that you can close your deals. Second thing is that you never, ever, as a sponsor, want to give an investor a cash call. They never come at a good time for them. They're always unexpected, and they are the kiss of death. For you as a sponsor, that'll burn a relationship faster than anything else. The better answer for that is pref equity, where somebody can fill in shortfalls in CapEx expenditures or shortfalls if you've got to redo your debt and you can't borrow quite as much, and that's happening a lot today because the cost of debt's higher. The only way to infill that is with additional equity, and that's why you do the cash calls. Well, pref equity can do that instead of doing a cash call to your investors. So we wanted to provide that pref equity that would help those get past those remediation or redoing the property and repositioning the property, or just to meet the cash demands to be able to get to refinance or restructure your current debt, especially in these high interest rate markets. So that's the second thing. Third thing is being able to provide liquidity to your investors. The biggest thing about that as a sponsor that I like is I overcome the number one hurdle for would-be investors, and that's you're going to tie up my money for 5 to 10 years. What if I need it? That takes that out of the equation. That makes the raise a lot easier because we all know that real estate creates more wealth than any other kind of investment. The downfall of that is that it's not liquid when it's needed, and that removes that barrier. Then the other thing is the original principles of PREIshare. When we got together, we all had a list of accredited investors and wanted to maintain the relationship with those investors. Those investors rely heavily on deal flow, and it's sometimes hard to match that up. PREIshare will have a tremendous amount of deal flow, but the other thing is as a sponsor, you have a 506c offering, for example, where you can generally promote it. We can expose that to our list of now combined list of almost 42,000 investors. So you're going to get a huge amount of exposure. And so far, I haven't seen any proposal in the PREIshare business model that they want to charge you for that service. Their interest is for you to be successful so we can have these other parts of our business model activated in your offering memorandums. So those are the 4 things I think are so strong about what PREIshare is doing. doing. I know that's got to resonate if you're a sponsor. If you've worked at it even for a few months, those 4 things have got to be big on your list. These kind of financial tools have never been in the real estate industry. I know I wish that they had been. It would have made my career a lot easier over the years, 40 some odd years of doing syndicated real estate deals. But I'm going to use a word that I probably shouldn't use, but I'm going to say they're innovative. I had a banker that told me one time that innovative is a bad word. I think innovative is only bad when there's no proven market demand for it. There has been a tremendous demand for liquidity in real estate investing, especially fractional interest, because somebody else has got control of your money. I know as a sponsor, there's been a need for short-term equity investment. I've talked now, I guess, to about 40 or 50 sponsors. Every one of them have said, oh yes, this will change everything for us. Kind of like, where have you been all my life? And the only reason I can say that is because I've done it for so long. And so the guys who have built this, right from one of our partners is my real estate securities attorney for 20, 30 years. Other guys have syndicated as nearly as long as I have. I think somebody said, you're emeritus, you're not the senior. Because I stopped syndicating 5 years ago. They all look at it and say, this is what's needed. So it was written by sponsors and investors for sponsors and investors. That's why I know it's gonna change the industry. I've done now probably about 40 or 50 sponsor onboarding. And it's been interesting talking to these sponsors because having done it for over 40 years myself, I thought I knew everything. And I'm getting information from sponsors now I never thought of, just never encountered in my career. You'd think after 40 years you'd encountered everything, but you don't. So if you are interested in becoming a PREIshare sponsor, the first thing I'd really ask you to do, I'll tell you why I'm asking this, because all the time that I was a sponsor, I had a client advisory board. And the client advisory board, I assembled it. I was the CEO of the company, and I assembled it from people that were the most critical of me. Thought I could be improving in this or improving at that or something like that. And a lot of people at my former company were sort of defensive about that. And I always kind of wondered, maybe that's a really good idea because it's coming from a client. So I took it upon myself to put together what I called the client advisory board. And I used to bring them to the Little America Hotel here in town, which was the nicest hotel in town, 2 or 3 times a year and let them tell me how to run the company better. And I found that the client's voice was incredible. So my client is the investors in PREIshare, those investors, which is different for me because the sponsors are, for a lack of better terms, producing product for us. And so in the process of them producing better product and us being able to meet those needs, I would love to see those sponsors get on our Facebook group and give us feedback as we build this out, because you're coming up with better ideas all the time, better ideas than I currently had. I have great ideas now, and so do the people that are putting it together. They're a great team. We come up with better ideas all the time, and we've only hit on a few of the high points. But I know as sponsors, you guys are encountering things that I maybe never did. And market conditions are changing, regulations are changing. You're seeing things that I never saw in my career, and I want to hear from you. So when I build out the toolkit for you, we build it so that it's custom built based on the current needs. So please get online, share your thoughts, tell us what you need, help us build a better company.